Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Jaber and I'm here with Doug Johnson, and today we're going to talk about IT services in Irvine.
Yeah, so Irvine's very interesting. We recently had a fire in Irvine a couple of weeks ago. There was a fire that started in Santiago Canyon. It jumped the freeway and it started burning into Irvine. As a matter of fact, we had to evacuate our offices at one point in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock. We looked out our front door and we could see the flames literally across the street. So as you can imagine, we were forced to evacuate. We're an IT services business. We still have clients that we have to support, even in light of natural disasters. So we got the opportunity to test our own disaster preparedness plan. So we were able to evacuate the office within an hour. We had our systems in the cloud. Our employees were able to go home. They were able to log on. They were able to continue taking phone calls. They were able to continue servicing our clients. But that really brings to light the need for, number one, a disaster recovery plan. And a lot of times when IT providers talk about a disaster recovery plan, it's about, do we have a backup? How do we recover from the backup? But really, it's more than that. It's looking at your entire business. If something happens like happened to us and happened to many other businesses in Irvine, what do you do? How do you evacuate? Where do you go? What do you take? What are the things that you have to take with you? And in the event that your building does catch fire or burn or there's an earthquake, how do you continue to run your business? We have disaster recovery backup solutions in place that back up our clients' data on an hourly basis to a local server, and then that data is transferred to the cloud so that so we can bring that client back up in the cloud and they can work remotely in the event that they lost their building in a fire like we just experienced in Irvine.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really made us go, okay, as a company, we were like, well, look at that. Everything that we talk about to our clients, everything that we talk about with being proactive actually occurred. And it made us think like, wow, we having this place, having these items in place actually provides that value that you really should be looking for when you're looking for a managed service provider. Because the question comes up all the time, how can we assess if that IT service provider is too expensive? Or, especially looking in Irvine where there's many businesses in Irvine, right? Or looking at, there's towers, big tall buildings there with multiple floors, and you're like, you have all these different businesses. And they're wondering, if I'm looking in Irvine, I'm looking for an IT guy in Irvine. Is this considered expensive? Is this considered cheap? Well, this very thing talks about the value that you're getting when you're looking at an IT service provider, because expensive is relative. It's based on what your business can handle and what budget you have. And if the managed service provider knows his stuff, knows her stuff, they'll be able to look at your industry, look at your business, and fit a proactive and a very cost-effective plan that'll cover all areas of your business, including those moments of disaster, especially here in California.
So Sophia, you've recently moved from Los Angeles to Orange County, and I know that you've done some research on cost of IT prices, in Los Angeles and also in Orange County and Irvine, and you found that the prices were higher in Irvine.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was actually just doing it for my own knowledge, especially because I'm not really familiar with Orange County. And I find that a lot of clients that are talking to us are kind of like me, where they're not from California, they're not necessarily a native. So now they're just kind of searching and looking at different towns, or maybe a radius within 10 miles, and they're noticing that there are all these cities in between, like Costa Mesa and all these different locations. And they're seeing that there's prices that kind of range. There's this range. And I found that there was like a 20% markup in Irvine. I mean, that's just my number. I just threw it out there. Not, no facts behind it. But when I was looking behind it, it was like, these numbers were just so high. And I think it's just because, especially being in Irvine, there's so many businesses there. It's so concentrated. And when I went there for the first time, I kind of felt like it was the city of Orange County. Like, this is a city kind of feeling when you're out there. Much more space in LA, way more space.
The business and technological center of Orange County, absolutely.
Yeah, which I absolutely love. Like, it's my kind of place to be, right? But it was very expensive, and just being that I actually I did this before. When I was working outside of managed services, and I was working actually as an IT director myself, and I was doing searches for IT service providers, and I noticed that the further out I went, there were different prices that went with the range, but then a lot of those people couldn't get to me. They didn't have that option where they had a tech who can work remotely in their location, then come to LA if they needed to. Actually, CyberTrust IT was is the company that can do that. And when I noticed that, the further out I went, I saw these numbers, and then I hit Irvine, and it was like night and day. I was like, wait a minute. So that was too far for me when I was in LA, but Irvine definitely is a little more expensive. There is a bit of a premium there. But again, it really is, when you look at that number, the number itself without context really it's not efficient, So I was looking at these numbers, but then I looked at the things that they offered. I looked at what was available for the business. What did they do? What did they not do? What were the limitations? Did they do backup disaster recovery? Did they do cloud support, service support? Did they have a place where we can actually build something offsite if needed? Or did they know somebody who did? These are all questions that kind of wrapped around the number I was looking at because I know to look for them. But then when I talk to people who are like me, maybe not from here, they're looking at these numbers and they're really getting quite nervous.
Right. So, Irvine is really the business center of Orange County. We have an office located in Irvine on Technology Center Drive. And our data center, where we put a lot of where our equipment is housed and where we host our clients from as well, is also in Irvine. Yep. So Irvine is basically kind of the cross point of two different electrical grids. It's also a cross point of multiple major internet service providers. So that's why you find a lot of co-location facilities, you find a lot of high-tech companies are located in Irvine. And that does come with a premium because of the convenience. But we can service clients in Irvine, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, Santa Ana, Anaheim. We have an office in Anaheim as well. So our reach is throughout all those cities in Orange County.
I think just to keep in mind that when you are looking at these numbers, the knowledge is really important because like you said, there are different electrical grids, there's different internet providers, there's different telecommunications services. There's so much happening there that if you're looking at that IT service provider, they better know their stuff and they better know exactly how they can support you, because if they don't know that kind of knowledge, and then you get a power outage or your internet service provider goes down and you don't have that backup plan, that plan B, it's because that IT provider either didn't know or because they didn't offer it. And that's something that you should definitely consider of asking when you're looking at those IT providers, making sure they have that knowledge of your neighborhood. So Doug, one of our clients is a property management company, and I think it'd be really cool if we talked about their success story and what we've done with them.
Okay. Yeah, actually this company is probably one of our oldest clients. They've probably been with us for more than 15, 16 years. They're a property management company, as you said. They actually own the buildings that they manage. They have several high-profile buildings in Irvine, Anaheim, Costa Mesa, San Diego, and we've worked with them in multiple buildings to be able to interconnect those buildings so that they can manage, for instance, the parking systems and the alarm systems and the camera systems, so that they can monitor and manage multiple buildings from this one, from their headquarters in Irvine. And then we've also worked with many of their clients because they have people that are moving in and out of those buildings, and they need IT services as they're coming in and out as well. So the relationship with this company actually has been very good, and it's allowed us to, as I said, work with their clients in their buildings in Anaheim, their buildings in Costa Mesa, their buildings in Irvine.
Yeah, and that tailors into, we have another property management company that, because we've had this one for such a long period of time, we know and we can support that type of industry. Because when people think of property management companies, you don't really think that they would need a managed service provider, but they do.
Well, they absolutely do, because it's all very automated now. Most of them use use line of business applications such as Yardi to manage, the rents, collecting the rents, managing those properties. And so they're very, very dependent on computers. For liability reasons, they're also very dependent on their video cameras and their monitoring systems and the automatic building control systems, as I said, for the parking garages, for the door controllers, for the locks and the security of the building as well. Those systems are very sophisticated these days, and they're all integrated together. And larger property management companies do actually have a fairly significant IT management requirement.
Absolutely. And with all the stuff that they're using, all the different hardware and tools that they have to focus on for their business, it's it's mandatory, it's necessary to have a managed service provider to be able to be there on the back end so that all of the systems and the applications that they need, and when they do expand, because that's what we want them to own and handle more locations and more buildings, right? So that they can expand their business. That IT company has to be able to grow with them. And I think that was one of the biggest successes for 15 years. This property management company has been able to rely on CyberTrust IT as they expanded and got more buildings and more hardware that they needed to establish and work with. They had CyberTrust on the back end, making sure that we can get to those locations, making sure that we can go to Costa Mesa, Irvine, Anaheim, all these different areas, and support them as they grew. And that capability is pretty hard to find.
Thank you for joining us today to talk about IT services in Irvine. If you'd like to find out more information or have a free IT assessment, please visit our website.